In TV shows and movies, most of the time everything is black and white. Heroes are saviors, villains are threats that bring destruction. But have you ever considered the possibility that everything could be turned upside down? What if what we see as evil is actually part of an inevitable order? In the Game of Thrones universe, the Night King is often portrayed as a pure destroyer, an enemy of all living things. But does his presence only bring chaos and death? Or is it a natural response to humanity's own hubris, wars, and corruption? Perhaps we have only heard one side of the story, and now it's time to question whether the Night King is really right. Before we begin, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the video. In the Game of Thrones universe, the Night King is often seen as a representative of absolute evil. He is a figure who does not speak, shows no mercy, and whose sole purpose is to destroy everything. But when we dig a little deeper, important questions about his existence arise. Is the Night King really a destroyer who loves chaos, or is he a being created by humans who fulfills his purpose? First, let's look at the origins of the Night King. He was not a natural being. Rather, he was created by the children of the forest. They needed a weapon to protect themselves from humans, so they transformed a human into the first leader of the Agazan. Over time, however, this creation spiraled out of control, and the Night King became a force of his own will. There is a critical question to be asked here. If the Night King is in fact the result of a human-initiated catastrophe, how fair is it to blame him? Did he choose this path of his own volition, or was he true to the purpose for which he was created? From a broader perspective, we need to look at the history of Westeros. In the Game of Thrones universe, humanity is a species that constantly fights, betrays, and destroys each other for power. Kingdoms fall, peoples are slaughtered, and even those closest to them are killed without blinking an eye for the throne. But was the Night King's goal really to destroy, or to end this endless cycle? Perhaps his arrival was not a catastrophe, but a breaking point that prevented humanity from destroying itself. Digging a little deeper, the Night King's actions are not irrational. He didn't get involved in a game where humans set the rules. He didn't try to negotiate or share power with them. He moved quietly and decisively, just as nature works. Was he just an inevitable force of nature that wanted to put an end to the corrupt order of Westeros? Before moving on, one must ask the question, if the Night King was truly a destroyer, why didn't he destroy all of humanity overnight? Why did he proceed step by step, starting with the North? Perhaps his goal was not just death, but the rebuilding of order. One of the most important questions when questioning the Night King is, who is truly evil? Throughout Game of Thrones, humanity has seen itself as the side that needs to be saved. But was this really true? How meaningful was it to try to protect humanity when the history of Westeros is full of blood, betrayal, and destruction? Perhaps the Night King was actually a force trying to reset a broken order. Let's look at the most powerful families of Westeros. The Lannisters, the Starks, the Targaryens. All have fought wars, committed betrayals, and wasted countless innocents to hold on to power. The Baratheons fought bloody civil wars for the throne. The Targaryens maintained their power by burning thousands of people with their dragons. The Lannisters destroyed their enemies through intrigue and deceit. Even the Starks, the honorable family of the North, were dragged into the fight, unable to escape the games for the throne. When we think about all this, from the Night King's point of view, was humanity really worth keeping alive? Perhaps his goal was not pure evil, but the destruction of the old to reset a corrupt civilization and restore true order. Nature versus humanity. Who is crueler? In the Game of Thrones universe, the way nature works is cruel, but fair. The wolf hunts to survive, the weak die when winter comes. Humans, however, are the only beings who break the fair laws of nature. They betray for power, kill innocents, and even exterminate their own kind. The Night King's march was in fact nature's answer to Westeros. It was as inevitable as the coming of winter. It wanted to control humans, just as humans wanted to control the animals and the land. But the difference is that humans did it selfishly. while the Night King only tried to fix an unbalanced world. At this point, the question is the Night King really a disaster, or is he the inevitable end of humanity? Given the dirty politics, corrupt leaders, and endless wars of Westeros, the arrival of the Night King can be seen as a purification process, not a disaster. But then why should he have been killed? Was it really a war that humanity had to win? Or was it just an attempt by a handful of individuals to maintain their power? Throughout Game of Thrones, the Night King's advance has often been seen as a harbinger of utter destruction. However, if we examine his actions carefully, we realize that he is not a monster who attacks without a plan, but a being with a systematic strategy. The Night King was unlike any other villain we've seen on the show. He didn't make a speech, offer a deal, or wage a personal war for the throne. His goal was to shape Westeros according to his own order. But instead of a chaotic war, he used a step-by-step strategy. First, he conquered the north. While he recruited the free people beyond the wall, the wildlings, he did not drag them into chaos. He strengthened his army by recruiting the dead, but without random massacres. He waited for the right time to cross the wall. He waited on the border for years, and only attacked when he had a great advantage, like the dragon. If his only goal had been to destroy, he could have moved years ago. As he made his way to Winterfell, he wore down his enemies. Instead of destroying them completely, he left them in fear and despair, gradually draining their strength. When we think of the Night King's army, there was no greed, betrayal, lies, or games of thrones in his order. The dead do not talk, deceive, or betray. They were a unit with a single purpose. In fact, compared to the corrupt structure of Westeros, torn by civil wars, the order brought by the Night King might even be fairer and more peaceful. If the Night King had succeeded, what would have happened in Westeros? Throne fights would have ended. The tyranny of kings and lords would end. Humanity would pay for its own greed. A paradox arises here. People saw the Night King as absolute evil, but was the order he offered worse than the bloody order of Westeros? If you lived in Westeros, would you really want to stay in the intrigues of the Lannisters, the wars of the Starks, and the dragon terror of the Targaryens, or in the absolute and inevitable order that the Night King offers? Of course, this order can be frightening for the living. But in the Night King's world, there was no room for greed, betrayal, and pain. Perhaps his victory would even be the best ending for Westeros. In the final season of Game of Thrones, the Great War began when the Night King and his army reached Winterfell. All the peoples of Westeros united against a common enemy. In the end, Arya Stark, in a surprise move, killed the Night King, and with him, all the Aegean were destroyed. Humanity emerged victorious, eliminating a major threat. But was it really the right side that won? There is a common fact in history. Those who win the war write the story from their point of view. With the Night King killed, the human order of Westeros continued. But was this order really worth keeping? The civil wars, betrayal, and corrupt order of the people still existed. The Night King's presence was seen as a threat. But was he really the real threat to humanity? The arrival of the Night King united the great houses of Westeros for the first time in a common cause. But this unity lasted only until his defeat. With his disappearance, the people returned to their old order. Daenerys burned King's Landing to seize the Iron Throne. Jon Snow organized an assassination to thwart her tyrannical rule. Bran Stark became king of Westeros in the most unexpected way. But is this the triumph of humanity? War, betrayal, destruction, and games of thrones? If the Night King had won, none of this would have happened. Perhaps Arya Stark's dagger killed not just a king, but a chance to end the corrupt order of Westeros. Throughout Game of Thrones, we have been shown heroes and villains, but one of the show's main messages was that not everything is as simple as it seems. Perhaps the Night King's only crime was that he wanted to fulfill the inevitable in a world where humanity had already prepared its own doom. As a result, humanity created its own catastrophe and then declared itself a hero by eliminating it. But was there a victory to celebrate? Was the Night King's death a true victory for humanity, or a temporary victory for the corrupt order over nature to protect itself? Perhaps with his death, the people of Westeros are trapped forever in their own corrupt order.